Our scripture reading this morning is from 1 Corinthians chapter 16, verses 13 and 14. And I read, "Be watchful, stand firm in your faith, be courageous, be strong. Let all that you do be done in love." This scripture reminds me of one of my favorite quotes by Mother Teresa, who said, "We can do no great things, only small things with great love." Small things with great love. We certainly have been witness to this over and over again this past year, while we've been living through these crazy times brought about by the pandemic. In our world, in our country, in our communities, in our homes, healthcare professionals putting their lives on the line, perfect strangers helping others in need, not because they get paid more money or receive honorary awards, just because they felt it was their job to do so. They did it from a place of love. And also right here at AMC, so many things have been done, all in the name of love for our chapel. Lisa, who volunteers in the office, answering the phone and sending out emails. Now she's offered to head up Psychic Saturday for us upon its return in September. What a blessing you are, Lisa. Whitney, who continues to help us with social media stuff, even though she no longer works in the office. Many thanks to you, Whitney. Wendy, president of the board. Her long-term devotion to the chapel and the board is extraordinary. She makes sure everything here always runs smoothly. And Reverend Jim, his love of the chapel extends well above and beyond his ministry on Sunday mornings. You can find him on a ladder repairing the ceiling and the roof. When I stopped by a few days ago to work in the garden, he was holding a paintbrush in his hands, painting the porch railings. Reverend Scott helped us move into doing our Zoom services to continue our ministry to our members during the pandemic. Keith and Reverend Brian have shared their gift of music with us during our virtual services. Reverends Wanda and Linda take care of our signboard on Wilson Boulevard. Inga and Reverend Diana, the bookstore. Lorena, our treasurer, helps keep our finances in order. Edith cleaned out the kitchen cabinets. What a job that was. And Pam, our secretary, documents our meetings and membership records and has offered to continue to assist with Psychic Saturday. And Reverend Kathy, who coordinates our healing program and all of our healers, such an important service to our congregants. All of the ministers and board members, I could name each one of you. Your time and devotion to AMC is immeasurable. And even more importantly, it's you, our members, each and every one of you, who have continued to support our chapel through this pandemic with your generous donations. It's kept us going. We certainly could not be here today without you. Lots and lots of small things, all done with great love. This is what Mother Teresa was talking about. We are truly blessed, and we thank you all. Another favorite quote of mine is by Charles M. Schulz, author of the Peanuts comic strip. He said, "Life is like an ice cream cone. You have to lick it one day at a time." And this past year, we certainly have learned how to lick it one day at a time. Pandemic has caused us to think and behave differently these past 16 months. We've all had to adjust, and the kind of adjustments we've had to make have not always been easy. How many of you ever imagined that you'd be working from home for so long? How many of you ever thought you'd be serving as not only parents, but also teachers to your children who haven't been able to attend school and classrooms? How many of you ever thought about living in a world where you had your groceries delivered instead of going to the store? Or you were limited to ordering takeout because you couldn't dine in at your favorite restaurants? You had to watch your high school or college student graduate online instead of being able to sit in the audience and cheer them on. Or worse yet, you were restricted from being at the bedside of your sick loved ones as they died alone in hospitals and nursing homes. Who ever thought that any of these things could be possible in our lifetimes? How many of you ever thought you'd be attending church virtually on Sunday mornings? And yet here we are. Not everything has been bad. Some things have actually been okay, better than okay. Having church via Zoom is okay. It's allowed us to continue to be together on some level and to have people join us that otherwise would not have been able to do so. And for that, we are especially grateful. But almost everything else has been an adjustment. Eventually, there will be studies done, lengthy theses with quantifiable results on COVID's effect written, on suicide rates, on divorce rates, on depression and anxiety, on economic output, on school participation and learning deficits, on work performances and the demise of certain types of businesses. But no study will ever be able to capture the actual lived experience of the pandemic. For years, we will be wondering, what is it that we have just lived through? What are we now coming out of? What have we learned? We've worn masks, many times we still do. We've socially distanced from others, even family members and close friends. We've had a fear of contact, of touch, of connection. The structure of our lives has been altered. The passage of life has moved differently, felt differently. While working from home, we've stopped worrying about whether we were dressed appropriately. Elastic waist pants became our best friend because Zoom calls only show our upper half. We haven't worried so much about our physical appearance or feeling out of place because it's been months or actually a year or more since we've had a good haircut. Who cares? Look at all the guys with beards. Facial hair has taken on a whole new fashion statement. We've stopped wearing makeup. Certainly the manufacturers of lipstick have taken a hit because why bother? No one can actually see behind the mask. And we actually forgot what it was like to have a cold because very few people were going to the office or to school. So very few of us have gotten sick this past year. Now, I think that COVID has been an entirely different experience for young people, middle-aged people, and older people. It's hard to speculate what this has done to children. And yet I wonder if some of the eventual studies will reveal a new rootedness, a deeper connection within families, a more genuine sense of love and appreciation for time spent together, for life itself. But for the true joy experienced when you can once again be able to shake the hand of someone, meeting them for the first time, or you can give a big hug to those that you know well, this feeling is something so special. A feeling that cannot be underestimated no matter what the studies show. There's no doubt that 2020 and the first half of 2021 have been difficult for everyone, tragic for many. But we're rounding the corner. We're starting to feel a much needed sense of hope and return to normality. No, things will not be the same, thank God. Things will be different, and that's a good thing. I've been reading a lot of articles lately on how we get beyond this, what we've learned and will continue to learn from the pandemic. The one thing that I found interesting is what I will refer to as the gift of neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity is a term that refers to the brain's ability to change and adapt as a result of an experience. It's how the brain reorganizes itself by forming new neural connections throughout life. Neuroplasticity allows the neurons, the nerve cells in the brain, to compensate for injury and disease and to adjust their activities in response to new situations or changes in their environment. the brain can actually alter the structure of its neural network. It can form new neurons, make new neural connections, and rearrange or eliminate pre-existing connections. In other words, neuroplasticity is a person's ability to change. Now, neuroscientists have reported that whether or not you have ever contracted COVID-19, pandemic can still change your brain. The coronavirus can cause several significant neurological disorders, but aside from that, pandemic isolation and worry can alter brain chemistry and cause mood disorders such as anxiety and depression. Researchers studying the impact of the coronavirus report that the damage goes beyond respiratory problems, causing serious neurological problems. The virus can gain access to the brain, which shows up as a loss of smell in some patients. The scientists contend that other brain changes, such as delirium, fatigue, headaches, memory loss, brain damage, and even stroke, are caused by inflammation and disruption of blood and oxygen supply to the brain. The authors of the report speculate that the virus alters dopamine and serotonin levels, the chemicals responsible for pleasure, motivation, and action. These changes are likely responsible for mood, fatigue, and cognitive changes reported by patients. And these symptoms underlie the presence of stress, anxiety, and depression that many people have experienced and continue to experience. Grief for the loss of loved ones, helplessness and excessive worry over contracting or spreading the virus to other family members or colleagues are all significant stressors that may collectively contribute to an imminent rise in these issues. Neuroimaging techniques show that chronic worries and fears diminish prefrontal cortex activity and damage neurons, actually shrink areas of your brain and impair your thinking. In addition, neurological and psychiatric symptoms, including psychosis and neurocognitive dementia-like symptoms, have been observed in some COVID patients. Many of us are experiencing our own traumas, wondering when we can return to our formal selves, emotionally, psychologically, and socially, or if our brains even can. The pandemic, the politics, and the Zooms are all part of who we are now. We can never go back to being the person we were before. We can never unexperience what we've been through. But the good news is that neuroscientists have shown through functional MRIs, the magnetic resonance imaging test, the human brain, believe it or not, is plastic. And each of us has the ability to override our brain's hardwired automatic fear reactions. We're not stuck with the COVID brain. This innate ability, called neuroplasticity, allows us to use our thinking mind to rewire the structure and functioning of our brains. And we can direct this neuroplasticity in the direction we want through mind management. Think of it as the power of the mind, something us metaphysicians have known about for years. Neuroplasticity guarantees that the architecture of your mind is never set in stone. You don't have to stay trapped by frustration, anxiety, or worry. It's possible for you to re-engineer your brain because your brain has the ability to change its own structure. So I've listed some tips that I want to share with you this morning on how you can bring your mind into the present moment and improve your brain health. The first one is simply to be kind and helpful. Kindness and empathy can affect the brain. Volunteering can give a sense of meaning in life. Making others happy is a great way to make yourself happy. Number two is to do something different. Take a different action in response to circumstances in the heat of the moment. For example, if you try calming yourself when listening to horrific pandemic news reports, This calming practice can rewire your neural pathways, widen your resilience zone, and eventually you're able to watch coverage on TV without automatically freaking out. Number 3, keep socially connected. Social isolation is detrimental to physical, cognitive, and mental health. Just know that maintaining social distance does not mean being isolated or alone. Be sure to keep up with family and friends and find ways to make new connections. Number 4, learn something new. The brain changes during critical periods of development, but it's also a lifelong process, not just when you're young. Learning new skills can modify both brain function and the underlying brain structure. Number 5, sleep properly. Sleep is very important for transforming experiences into our long-term memory. It exerts a strong regulatory influence on the immune system. If you have the optimal quantity and quality of sleep, you will find that you have more energy and a better sense of well-being. And number 6, stay in the present moment. Introduce new calming practices such as mindful meditation, yoga, deep breathing, Tai Chi, massage. Brain scans at Harvard and UCLA show that regular practice of mindfulness meditation actually minimizes the brain shrinkage. Number 7, call upon your thinking brain. In addition to mindful relaxing techniques, when you feel frazzled and start to freak out, it's possible to develop the habit of calling on the executive function of your prefrontal cortex, cool down hot-headed fears, and make better decisions. The prefrontal cortex helps you realize things are not usually as bad as your survival brain registers them to be. You can take a breath, step back from the worry, and simply calm down. Now, number 8, and I know this may sound strange, but talk to your worry. Worry and fear are nature's protectors, but they overestimate threats and underestimate our ability to handle them. The pattern gets grooved into the brain. So as you start to notice the worry, take a few deep breaths and talk to it with something like, okay, worry, I see you're here trying to protect me. Thank you, but I'm okay right now. The worry will usually calm down. This helps you gain perspective and become more calm and positive. And number 9, my favorite, contemplate nature. If you're stumped for a solution at work, stressed out or overwhelmed with worries, spending time with Mother Nature gives you a creative surge or aha moments for a workable problem. Be mindful of the breeze. Notice the colors and smells of leaves and flowers. Pay attention to the sounds of insects in the bushes or the chirping sounds of birds in the trees. Look up at the clouds. Watch the grass grow or admire a sunset. Scientists say that a minimum of just 2 hours a week in nature, whether it's parks, mountains, beaches, or even your own backyard, will promote physical and mental health and well-being and will give you a better perspective on your life circumstances. Studies show that spending time in greener areas is linked to lower incidences of heart disease, obesity, diabetes, asthma, mental distress, and mortality rates. So whenever you're feeling overwhelmed, just tell yourself to go take a hike. Number 10, exercise. Exercise has been linked with both better physical and mental health. And studies show that individuals with higher levels of fitness have increased brain volume. People who exercise live longer. Taking a brisk 10-minute walk raises and sustains your energy level and also recalibrates a fatigued brain. Number 11, eat well. nutrition can substantially influence the development and health of brain structure and function. Eating a good quality diet is related to larger brain volume. And number 12, capitalize on technology. Wearable devices, digital platforms, and technologies like smartphones and tablets can provide viable routes for the delivery of mental health care. Activity trackers serve to monitor a patient's heart rate, sleep patterns, and mood in real time, indicating when the wearer may benefit from activities such as meditation, exercise, or extra sleep. Guided meditation apps can also help patients reduce stress levels themselves. Now, believe it or not, there is one way our brains may have actually changed for the better this year. It's called post-traumatic growth and is referred to as the hero's journey, when we live through extremely challenging and difficult times and come out stronger than we were before. We develop a sense that new opportunities emerge from struggle and that renewed relationships deepen spiritual lives and a greater appreciation for life in general will occur. Another silver lining is a new simplicity. We may now question what's really worth our time. Our perspective is going to be forever changed. Here at AMC, we believe in the science and philosophy of divine metaphysics. This is a faith that we've chosen. For most of us, this is not a faith we grew up with as a child, but rather a way of life that we've come to live by. And I think we have a better outlook and appreciation for life than most people do. But that's not to say that we still don't get frazzled and experience lots of different kinds of emotions, just like all the rest. Just know this: it's okay to get annoyed and frustrated. It's even okay to want to punch someone else's lights out, just so you don't actually do it. It's okay to feel down and want some quiet time to yourself every now and then. That's why meditation is so helpful, particularly a regular meditative practice for preventative measures, just so when things happen, and they will happen, you're better able to put them in perspective and deal with them the way you know is best for you. That's when it's helpful to remind ourselves of our fourth principle, that of personal responsibility, and that we create our own happiness or unhappiness as we live in harmony or discord with natural, physical, and spiritual laws. We know what's best for us, and we know what's best for our universe. We just have to remind ourselves of it every now and then. Just know that you do have the ability to make the necessary changes, to feel better, to live better, to be better. Allow this gift of neuroplasticity to work for you. As we move on from the days of this pandemic, try to work on rewiring your brain by doing the things that will bring you joy. And remember our scripture for today, 1 Corinthians chapter 16, verses 13 and 14. Be watchful, stand firm in your faith. Be courageous, be strong. Let all that you do be done in love. And may it be so.